I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. So welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I'm really excited because I get the opportunity to introduce you to extraordinary women that are making a difference on this planet, women that are change makers and way showers. And I believe that this is a time for women emerging, that we are coming into the full expression of who we have come here to be. And so how wonderful that I get to invite women to this program and introduce them to you. You can subscribe to us. We're on Spotify and iTunes and iHeart and Amazon, and we're also on YouTube. You can find us in a lot of places. Please come back because the women that I interview inspire me greatly. So my guest today is Merlyna Valentine. She's an international speaker, author, consultant. She has received numerous state, national, international awards and commendations as a Teacher of the Year, Principal of the Year, and was chosen as the University of New Orleans College of Education and Human Development Alumna of the Year. But this is what's interesting that I want you to know. Against overwhelming odds, Miss Valentine overcame a medical tragedy and she thrives in her new life. She's learned some valuable lessons since 2007 when her life, as she knew it, was forever changed. She experienced the closest call to death imaginable. And instead of focusing on what happened and what is missing in her life as a quadruple amputee, she chooses to embrace this vastly different path with a positive attitude. This is what's important, ladies. She accepts no excuses and models this in her daily life. Merlyna, thank you so much for being here.
It is my pleasure. I am excited to spend time with you today.
Thank you. Well, I love your story. I guess I want to start with your childhood. How did you grow up? I mean, did you come from a family of educators? What inspired you to be an educator?
So you're absolutely correct. I grew up in a house filled with the importance of education. My mother, a lifelong educator herself, worked for over 40 years in the field. And my father was an educator for a few years before he transitioned to a manufacturing job. At the time, you couldn't feed your family and do all you needed to do with an educator's salary. So I did grow up around educators, and that love for learning and that quest for learning, along with my just passion for children and the love that I had for children, it led me straight to that path of being an educator. I say it's in my DNA. I think I was born with it.
Yeah, awesome. And so you were a teacher. What did you teach?
So I taught second grade for nearly 14 years. And then for 3 more years, I had a plethora of tasks that I did, from being a writing extension teacher to a teacher who worked in enrichment and teaching kids how to express themselves through art. So I taught every subject in second grade, and it was absolutely an incredible journey.
Well, and second graders are just so open and so wonderful. I just love that. So, and then you decided to become a principal.
So yes, I had the encouragement of a close cousin of mine who had taken that leap. And I said, I never wanted to leave the classroom because I absolutely love the little family we created each year and the lives I got to touch, and their families became close to me. And she said, all you're doing is making a transition to be able to have that same impact, but with a broader reach, because now you'll be, able to reach every student in that building. And so I said, that sounds like a great plan. I'd love to touch more lives. And I just decided that's the path I wanted to go on next.
Well, what I love about that is clearly you made impact. You're Teacher of the Year, Principal of the Year. I mean, you definitely made impact. So I want to talk about your life today. And I want to talk about the incident that happened. And I happen to know some of your story, but I want you to share it because it was quite startling what happened.
Yes, it was. It was 2007, August, and it was the kickoff to a new school year. And I was so excited at Meet the Teacher night, my favorite night. And I was a school principal then, at 650 students and a pre-K to fifth grade school. And I was ecstatic about the new school year. It was my second full year starting as a principal. And I had a pain in my side. And I said, whoo, that was intense. And so I sought medical care the following day because I said, this is Tuesday and Wednesday is the first day of school. I can't miss that. Diagnosed with a kidney stone. Isn't that such a common thing? I wasn't the least bit concerned. I said, tell me what I need to do because I have a school to run. And I was told I'd have treatment on Friday with a specialist coming up with the plan. I didn't make it to Friday. On Tuesday night, it felt like I had the worst case of the flu ever. And so I visited several hospitals in the course of a few days where they could not figure out what was happening. And finally, at the fourth and final hospital, after being ambulanced from hospital to hospital, as things progressed and only got worse, I arrived there 30 minutes from dying. That night, my family was told I had a less than 10% chance of surviving the night. And it was because that kidney stone blocked my kidney and an infection was ravaging through my body. I experienced something called sepsis. And that was the beginning of this transformation that I had to go on. And I survived, obviously. I beat that 10% chance, right? Turned it into 100%. But it was a long and arduous road. I spent weeks in the intensive care unit on a ventilator. I spent months in the hospital and 2 years recovering at home and fighting my way back. Because of the sepsis and some of the treatments used to save my life, blood flow to my extremities was compromised. And that is what ended up in me becoming a quadruple amputee. I lost both of my hands and both of my legs below the knee. And here to me is the best part of this story, that when people counted me out and when this tragedy was supposed to be that defining moment for me where I would decide I'm going to give up and it was just too much, that is when that pain inside of me fueled my purpose. And I said, I have a school to get back to, things I started that I didn't get to finish. And when my district said, we believe in you, and if you're ready to come back, do that. 2 years to the date of that illness, I'm so extra. I didn't just walk back into that building. That would be just so ordinary. I danced my way back in as the building principal, and I have not looked back one day since. That's why I say I thrive in this new life and in this transformation that happened when change chose me.
Well, I love that. And I love that. So I just want to dissect this journey just a little bit.
Sure.
Because when they're telling you and your family that your chances are small, where was your mindset in terms of accessing faith? Because I can tell that you're a faith-filled woman.
That is the best perception that you can have about me. I am definitely a faith-filled person. And in those first 3 weeks in the intensive care unit, when my family had to leave because there are very strict visiting hours, most days I was only left there with me and God. And right from the very beginning, as soon as I was brought out of a medically induced coma that they had put me in for 7 days, I remember looking at the clock and hearing doctors say, we're not sure she's going to make it. We're not sure she'll be here in the morning. Should we call in her family? And I remember that night looking at the hour hand moving and thinking each hour means that I'm still here and that tomorrow is a new day and that new day is coming. And I remember God saying, I brought you here and I'm going to be with you the whole time. You're not here alone on this journey. Even though no one's in this room with you, I am here. And from that moment on, I felt a sense of peace about what was going to be the outcome and that I could press on and move forward because I knew that I was going to be okay. And I felt like I was left here to tell this story. And so the miracle that I am is something that I will shout from the mountaintops, that it's only because of my faith that I believe I was able to come out of this in the way that I have.
Yeah, it's really interesting because other people that I've interviewed or people I've worked with, they all say the same thing, that they're diving deep into faith and activating something in the universe to support them. What was the moment of shift, the change maker?
Absolutely. I agree.
So, okay. So, all right. So now 2 years and, I'm assuming that you got prosthetics, right? And So I need to know, what was that journey like? You know, when I was at Mile High, Amy Purdy, who, right, you know who she is. She danced up
Yes,
there.
I follow her, of course.
Yes, and she really talked about this journey, but I think people don't really understand. It's not that they just come in and say, "Oh, here, put this on," and then everything's all rosy.
Absolutely not. And so for me, my legs were amputated first, and I was excited about that and felt like it was the next step needed on this journey because I'd been horizontal for nearly 2 years. And so I was ready to stand upright and to get moving forward. And I put on those legs, and I expected, just as you said, that I would just start taking steps and go on my journey. But the first time I stood up, I could only stand for 3 seconds because my body's stamina and the blood flow rushed to my head. And so I was a little discouraged on that first time standing because I thought, is this going to be what it's like? How long will this take? But each day, my physical therapist was a close friend, and he said, as much as you want to work and as much as it's medically okay, you can come in. So what I decided was I was going back to work in about 8 weeks. And I said, I've got to get on these legs and I've got to figure out how to use them and be steady on them because I'll be around little kids. And so I want to be safe. And so what I did is I had to put in the work. And so each day I would extend the time from 5 minutes of standing to 20 minutes and just kept going. It was definitely not an easy journey, but it was one that showed me that I had the strength inside of me I didn't know existed until I needed it. And so what I did was I started showing up to therapy 3 times a day so that I could rest and come back and rest and come back and build those muscles and things that had gone dormant in my body so that I could be prepared. And that's what I did. I put in the work, I worked out, I ate healthy, and I just said, I'm on this mission. So what I did was condense 6 months of therapy into 6 weeks so that I could be there to start the school year. And it was tough, but it was so worth it.
Well, what I love about this is that your willingness to show up, your willingness to work hard, your willingness to put in the time and the energy. And I think some of the times the things that people don't understand is like, you can have a vision and you can have a dream, but you have to put energy into it. You have to be committed to it. And so bravo for you. I just think that it's such an extraordinary example. And you were so motivated to get back to that school on time to be with those children. I just think it's beautiful. I want to go to your love story.
Absolutely. It's my favorite part of the story.
So tell us.
So when this all happened, I had been dating this amazing man named Valentine. And I met him on Valentine's Day. And so I thought, this might be some sign that this is something meant to be. And we've been dating for only a year when I became sick. And I remember when they removed the ventilator tube, the first thing that I asked him and shared with him was, I did not expect him to stay, and that if he needed to walk away, I was perfectly okay with that because this would be a lifelong commitment to being a caregiver because I didn't know how my life would turn out. I didn't know any amputees. And so this was new territory and he didn't either. He looked at me and he just dismissed that right away. And he said, when I said I love you, I didn't say that I love you if you stayed exactly the same. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And, that was like the comfort that I needed to let me know that parts of my life were going to be put back together, even though everything had fallen apart. And so he did that. He left his home, which was an hour away from me, his family, his job, his career. And he said, you're getting back to your school and your passion means so much to you that I'm going to make sure I do what it takes to make that happen. That's what he did. So when I shared with him that he'd be doing hair and makeup, he was a little taken aback because he has a bald head on purpose because he didn't want to fool with hair. And he had no idea that I wore makeup because for that year we dated, he only met that representative, the one we put forward of the best version of ourselves. And so we struggled at first. I was Bozo the Clown for quite a few moments, with him trying to do my makeup, but thanks to YouTube videos and his desire to make sure that I look the best when I return to that job, we are where we are today. I have my own makeup artist and hairstylist for every occasion, for every day. And later on, 2 years, when I began walking, he proposed and he said, we're going to go down the aisle. And that's what we did. I was able to walk on those prosthetic legs and hold on to him with these prosthetic hands and marry the man who made me believe in fairy tales again. And we've been on this journey. We had our 10-year anniversary this year in April, and each day is like a new beginning, a gift I get to unwrap with him because of the love, the unconditional love that we have for each other. And I just try to show up every day as my best so that he knows he made a good decision and he hit the marriage lottery when he decided to stay with me.
Well, that is such an inspiring, heartwarming story. And for any of you ladies out there who are thinking that that kind of love isn't possible, that bubble just got burst, didn't it? Right?
Yes, it did.
I mean, for him to give up everything and to come and to care for you in that way, you know, but I also want to say, I really believe that that happened because of your level of consciousness and your level of faith and your level of light.
I think so, because I think we were initially drawn to each other on a deeper level. As we had that very first conversation, we talked about things that I don't believe I talked about with anyone else for years. And right away, I knew he was a faithful person, raised in the church and constantly encouraging me to discover more about my faith before this all happened. And right now, he is the one that constantly reminds me of things that bring us right back to what is our driving force in our marriage, which is that God is the third person in our marriage. And with that, nothing shall make it fall apart. So I totally agree that we had this connection that I can't explain, but it was felt from the moment I met him. And then I learned his name was Valentine, and I thought he has to be someone filled with love. You know, I'm going to steal that last name. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, it's so beautiful. And by the way, when you talk to him, tell him bravo on the makeup and the hair. Just want to say.
I surely will.
So what's next? I mean, what's next for you? You got back to your school. What's unfolding now?
So I returned, I worked hard. I had some tough days, just physically trying to figure out how to manage the tasks that principals are asked to do, but I stepped up, I showed up every day, and I had a supportive cast of my family and friends, as well as those people who were my colleagues and my students. If I dropped an ink pen, there were 20 kids right there to pick it up because they did not want me to have anything happen during the course of my day. And that's when I went on through my hard work and the efforts I put in to win Principal of the Year for our district and named one of the top 5 principals in the state of Louisiana, something that most people said would be impossible. They didn't expect me to even return to my job as a quadruple amputee, but you know, I kept just showing up and showing them who I was and how I was going to be present every single day. About 4 years into that principalship, my new superintendent asked me to join her executive staff and become the executive director of elementary schools and supervise principals. And so that led me to another level in my career and something I wasn't expecting, did not desire, but I said, God called me to this and I'm going to just do what's being asked of me. And then 3 years after that, I retired and I made my 30 years as an educator. And I said, there's something else pulling at me, something just greater than me right now in this moment, that my message has a desire to be heard by people all over, and that I could be the reason people never give up hope. And that's when I decided I would use my voice and become a speaker. I'd already done some little things, but then it just started unfolding for me right before my eyes. And God was kicking in doors and saying, this is a space that I want you in. This is what I want you to do to share your message. And so that's when I decided that would be the next part of this journey.
So incredible. So I just feel like I've been bathed in a love language of some kind. I mean, it's
Thank you.
beautiful. And so I want, if people want to know your story, connect with you, how do they find you?
Absolutely. So I am on every social media platform on Instagram and Facebook. You can search Merlyna Valentine. And on Twitter, of course, I am there, and my handle is Merlyna Inspires. And I have a website, and it is SheroValentine.net. So Shero, SHERO, Valentine.net. That was given to me by someone I met while I was out speaking, who became a great friend and said, I am designing a website for you because I want your reach to be even greater. And since you are my Shero, that's what I'm going to name it. And so I said, I go with that. Not a problem. So they can find me there as well.
I love it. Well, and I love your positive energy and positive outlook. And I really love the way in which you are willing to surrender to the energy and the flow of the divine that's operating as you. It's quite evident.
I am always going to trust, because when I didn't know where this path was leading and why I was chosen for this very different path at 41 years old, to have your life turned upside down. And it was then that I was stood right side up. And I said, from here forward, I've got to trust and just go with the plan. That's all I can do.
Yes, beautiful. So I ask each guest the same last question. So here it is. What do you feel is the one important thing women should remember about the importance of awakening?
Okay. For me, this is what I think women should know, that it is difficult to get to the awakening or the enlightenment or the shift in consciousness that we all desire, if we're not mindful of the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we continue to repeat and replay in our mind. You see, often we play the story of fear and doubt and lack and unworthiness, and sometimes those become the main characters in our lives, and we don't get to discover who we really are and have that great awakening. And so I just say that we need to be mindful of that and to shift that perspective to thinking about and being deliberate about the stories that we replay in our mind. I think there are those stories of overcoming adversity and of beating the odds and of, just doing something even when we're afraid. Those are the stories that I know women have that they've done and experienced in life, but somehow those stay on mute sometimes. And life tries to convince us that we're not those things, but we really are. We control the narrative in life. You are the author of your own story. So I always say to women, get to know yourself, be more self-aware of who you are, what you desire in this world, and what is it that is calling you? What is your purpose? Because you see, that's when I had my big awakening. Yes, I had that tragic thing happen in my life, and that should have been the moment where things became clearer for me. But it's been a journey. To me, it's a process that I had to go through to get to where I am now. And it's because I embraced my purpose in life. And I know that when I'm walking in that purpose, when I'm living in that purpose, that is when I feel the most awakened in this world. So I say be mindful of the stories you tell yourself and to step into your power boldly and just live your life. No excuses.
Well, Merlyna, beautiful, powerful words. Ladies, I hope you really took that in. She's a living example of faith in action. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very grateful to walk this path with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my honor and privilege to be able to have a conversation with you.
Thank you. All right, ladies, I do this every week. I introduce you to another wonderful woman doing something fabulous on this planet. I hope you'll come back each time. I hope you'll subscribe and just remember that you are magnificent, that you are extraordinary, that there's nothing else like you, no one else like you. You're an original imprint. So whatever is happening in your life, whatever has happened to you, that you are guided, supported, loved, and uplifted in every single moment. I'm honored to be with you, and I will see you next week.